Men over 50, everyday nuts that boost testosterone and restore confidence. Gentlemen, let's be honest. When you hear a title like that, you probably laugh and think, Doc, you're telling me a handful of nuts can fix my energy, my waistline, and my performance in the bedroom? And I get it. It sounds too simple. But let me tell you something that may shock you. Science is proving that some of the most powerful testosterone boosters in the world aren't found in prescription bottles or fancy supplements. They're found in foods you walk past every single day at the grocery store. Now here's the brutal truth. After 50, your testosterone levels are dropping faster than you think. In fact, research shows that by age 60, nearly half of men have levels so low they are considered deficient. And when testosterone falls, it's not just your sex drive that suffers. Your muscles shrink, your belly grows, your mood darkens, and your confidence in every area of life quietly slips away. But what if I told you that the solution might be hiding in plain sight? That almonds could fuel your testosterone factory with zinc and magnesium. That Brazil nuts, just 2 a day, could flip the switch on your hormone production. That walnuts, pistachios, and macadamias could supercharge your circulation, your energy, and your vitality in ways most men never imagine. I know some of you are skeptical, and that's good. Because in this video, I'm not going to give you hype. I'm going to give you science, case studies, and the exact steps I've seen men in their 50s, 60s, even 70s use to restore the edge they thought was gone forever. But before we dive in, do me one quick favor. Smash that like button, share this video with a friend who needs it, and hit subscribe. Because the more you support this channel, the more evidence-based, life-changing health strategies we can bring straight to you. All right, let's jump in. First, we need to talk about why testosterone really matters after 50, and the answer might surprise you. Why testosterone matters after 50. Gentlemen, let's pause for a moment and talk about why testosterone is so critical once you cross 50. Most people hear the word and immediately think about sex drive, and yes, that's part of the story, but testosterone is much bigger than that. It's not just about intimacy, it's about identity. It's the hormone of strength, drive, energy, and confidence. It's the spark that makes you want to tackle challenges instead of avoid them. It's the difference between waking up ready to face the day or dragging yourself out of bed with no fire left in the tank. Science shows exactly how important this hormone is. Testosterone helps your muscles absorb protein and grow stronger, and it signals your bones to stay dense. That's why men with low levels often notice shrinking muscles, belly fat that won't budge, and a posture that begins to slump. Research from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that older men with low testosterone had nearly double the risk of fractures compared to those with healthier levels. It also plays a huge role in metabolism. When testosterone drops, your metabolism slows down, and that's why fat, especially around the belly, creeps in. Belly fat itself produces an enzyme called aromatase, which actually converts testosterone into estrogen. The more belly fat you gain, the less testosterone you produce, and the cycle keeps feeding itself. But testosterone isn't just physical. It's also a brain hormone. It influences memory, focus, and motivation. Men with low levels are more likely to feel depressed, irritable, or anxious. Harvard researchers have linked low testosterone to a higher risk of dementia later in life, while other studies show that men with healthy levels perform better on memory tests and think more clearly. And believe it or not, testosterone also protects your heart. It helps keep arteries flexible and supports healthy blood flow. Low levels have been linked to higher rates of cardiovascular disease, strokes, and even earlier mortality. Finally, there's confidence. Every man knows the feeling. When your testosterone is steady, you walk differently, you think differently. You even carry yourself differently. When it's low, you may still function, but deep down you know something's missing. It's not just about performance in the gym or the bedroom. It's about the quiet self-assurance that defines how you move through the world. The good news is this. While testosterone naturally declines with age, your daily choices have enormous power to slow, stop, and in some cases even reverse that decline. Studies have shown that men who exercise regularly, maintain a healthy weight, and follow nutrient-rich diets experience far smaller drops in testosterone than those who don't. Some even see their levels stabilize or rise. That's why diet matters more than most people realize. Every bite you eat is either supporting your hormones or undermining them. So let me ask you, if something as simple as the foods you choose each day could help you rebuild muscle, shed fat, sharpen your memory, protect your heart, and restore your confidence, wouldn't it be worth paying attention to? Because the truth is, it doesn't always take a prescription or an injection to feel like yourself again. Sometimes it starts with small, simple choices, and one of the most powerful places to begin is with foods that men often overlook. Nut number 1, almonds, the zinc and magnesium powerhouse. If there's one nut that belongs in every man's pantry, it's the almond. Crunchy, versatile, and easy to carry, almonds deserve the title of testosterone helper. What makes them so valuable is their high content of zinc and magnesium, two minerals essential for hormone production. Zinc plays a direct role in testosterone synthesis, and even a mild deficiency can cause testosterone levels to drop noticeably. The National Institutes of Health notes that men lacking zinc often see reduced sperm count, lower testosterone, and weaker immune function. Magnesium is equally important because it helps convert inactive testosterone into the free form your body can actually use. A 2011 study in biological trace element research found that men who supplemented with magnesium for 4 weeks increased their free testosterone by nearly 24%, and the effect was even greater when combined with exercise. Almonds also provide healthy monounsaturated fats, which are the raw materials your body needs to manufacture hormones. Without enough of these fats, testosterone production slows down. Think of it as running a factory without enough supplies. Output will always be limited. I remember a patient of mine, Mark, a 62-year-old retired firefighter who came in frustrated about his low energy, poor workout results, and a decline in intimacy with his wife. His labs showed borderline low testosterone. Instead of rushing him into therapy, I made one small change to his diet, a daily handful of raw almonds. Within weeks, Mark reported more energy, a steadier mood, and renewed motivation. By 3 months, his testosterone had climbed 12%, all without medication. Research supports what I saw in Mark. A 2018 study published in Nutrients found that men who ate tree nuts, particularly almonds, had higher testosterone levels and lower markers of inflammation than those who didn't. This matters because inflammation quietly undermines hormones and overall vitality as men age. Almonds aren't a magic pill, but they're a practical, powerful way to support testosterone naturally. You don't need much to see the benefits. A small handful, around 20 to 25 almonds per day, is enough. Choose raw or dry roasted varieties without added sugar or oils. They fit easily into everyday meals. Sprinkle them on oatmeal. Toss them into Greek yogurt or add them to a salad. I had another patient, David, a 70-year-old grandfather who swapped his afternoon coffee for a pack of almonds. Within weeks, he told me he no longer felt the 3 p.m. slump and his energy stayed steady throughout the day. That's the difference almonds can make: simple, consistent, and effective support for man's energy, strength, and confidence. Almonds are the perfect starting point, but they're just the beginning. The next nut on our list may be even more powerful. And the surprising part is that most men don't realize how little of it they need to see results. Nut number 2, Brazil nuts. The selenium secret weapon. If almonds are the steady workers of testosterone support, Brazil nuts are the heavy hitters. They are the richest natural source of selenium in the world, and selenium works like rocket fuel for testosterone production. Your testicles rely on specialized Leydig cells to make testosterone, and these cells cannot function properly without selenium. This mineral shields them from oxidative stress and helps enzymes complete the chemical steps needed for hormone production. Without enough, testosterone output slows. With the right amount, those cells operate at full strength. Studies have confirmed this. Research published in the Journal of Urology showed that men given selenium with vitamin E saw measurable increases in testosterone and fertility markers within months. Another large study in Iran involving more than 400 men found that selenium supplementation significantly boosted testosterone compared to placebo. The remarkable part about Brazil nuts is that just 1 or 2 per day can provide all the selenium your body needs. That's it, not handfuls, not a full bag. Just 2 nuts can cover your daily requirement. And while it sounds too simple to be true, I've seen it change lives. One of my patients, Jim, a 67-year-old retired mechanic, felt drained and sluggish when he first came to me. His labs showed low normal testosterone and rising blood sugar. I suggested something he laughed at: 2 Brazil nuts a day. 3 months later, his energy was back, his mood had lifted, and his testosterone had climbed nearly 18%. His wife told me she felt like she had her husband back. All of this from a habit so small he barely noticed it. Brazil nuts are especially powerful for men over 50 because they don't just support testosterone. Selenium also strengthens antioxidant defenses by forming glutathione peroxidase, an enzyme that protects hormone-producing tissues from the wear and tear of aging. It supports thyroid health as well. And since the thyroid controls metabolism, better thyroid function means less belly fat, more energy, and healthier hormones overall. Research in clinical nutrition has shown that men who ate Brazil nuts regularly not only improved their selenium levels, but also lowered cholesterol and reduced inflammation. two major risk factors that tend to rise with age. From a practical perspective, the key is moderation. Brazil nuts are so concentrated that more is not better. 1 or 2 nuts a day is perfect, and I often recommend eating them in the morning with breakfast or as a mid-morning snack. Paired with protein like eggs or yogurt, they help stabilize blood sugar and deliver steady energy. I had another patient, Harold, who added just 2 Brazil nuts to his breakfast routine. Within weeks, he told me he no longer needed his afternoon nap, and his stamina during walks improved. After decades in practice, I've seen countless supplements promise miracles and fade away, but Brazil nuts remain consistent, reliable, and affordable. Nature designed them perfectly for the challenges men face as testosterone declines with age. Gentlemen, don't underestimate the power of such a small daily change. Sometimes it's not the dramatic overhauls, but the quiet, consistent habits that bring back your energy, your confidence, and your drive. And while Brazil nuts provide the ignition, the next nut, walnuts, acts as the bridge, improving circulation so the testosterone you produce can reach every part of your body that needs it. Nut number 3, walnuts, the omega-3 blood flow enhancer. If almonds are the builders and Brazil nuts are the spark plugs, then walnuts are the delivery system because testosterone is only useful if it can travel freely through the bloodstream to reach your muscles, your brain, and yes, even the bedroom. Walnuts shine here because they are one of the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically alpha-linolenic acid. Most men think of fish oil when they hear omega-3, and while fish is excellent, walnuts are the king of nuts for these healthy fats. Omega-3s improve blood vessel flexibility, lower inflammation, and increase nitric oxide, the molecule that helps arteries relax and open. I often tell my patients to think of nitric oxide as WD-40 for circulation, because it loosens things up, smooths blood flow, and ensures oxygen and nutrients reach the tissues that need them most. For testosterone, this means better delivery and better effectiveness. Science strongly supports these benefits. A study published in Circulation found that men who ate walnuts daily improved the health of their blood vessel linings in just 8 weeks. Another trial in nutrition, metabolism and cardiovascular diseases showed that a walnut-rich diet lowered blood pressure and improved cholesterol in older adults. These changes are not just good for the heart, they directly influence hormone health, because poor circulation limits testosterone's ability to reach the organs and muscles it is meant to serve. In other words, even if your body makes enough testosterone, it won't work for you if your circulation is weak. I recall a patient named Robert, a 71-year-old retired school principal. He told me he felt like he was running at half speed. Mowing the lawn took him twice as long, and climbing stairs left him winded. His blood work showed low normal testosterone, high cholesterol, and rising blood pressure. Instead of prescribing medication right away, we changed his diet. One of the simplest swaps was replacing his nightly chips with a small bowl of walnuts. 3 months later, his blood pressure dropped by 8 points, his cholesterol improved, and he said something that stuck with me. "Doc, I didn't realize how much brain fog I had until it lifted." That is the walnut effect: better circulation, sharper mind, steadier energy, and more effective testosterone. There is even more evidence. A 2012 study from UCLA asked men to eat 2 handfuls of walnuts daily for 12 weeks. The men showed significant improvements in sperm vitality and motility, which may not matter to a man in his 60s or 70s, but it reflects healthier hormone balance, better blood flow, and stronger testicular function at any age. Walnuts also deliver supporting nutrients like arginine, which further boosts nitric oxide, along with vitamin E and polyphenols that protect hormone-producing cells from oxidative damage and inflammation. In practice, I often recommend walnuts as an evening snack. They are satisfying, help calm late-night cravings, and contain natural melatonin, which supports deeper sleep, and better sleep directly supports testosterone. 1 small handful is enough, and they can easily be added to oatmeal, yogurt, salads, or smoothies. In fact, pairing walnuts with almonds creates a nutrient-rich combination of zinc, magnesium, and omega-3, a powerhouse for hormone health. A large review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition analyzed 26 clinical trials and confirmed that walnut consumption consistently improves cholesterol, vascular health, and inflammation markers. These improvements all feed into stronger testosterone function. I often remind my patients that making testosterone is only half the battle. The other half is ensuring it gets where it needs to go. Walnuts make sure the delivery system stays open and strong, like a mechanic keeping the fuel lines clear. If almonds build the foundation and Brazil nuts ignite the engine, then walnuts keep everything running smoothly. And once circulation is steady, the next nut, pistachios, doesn't just maintain the flow, it supercharges it, delivering noticeable improvements in vitality and performance that many men feel almost immediately. Nut number 4, pistachios, the circulation and vitality nut. If walnuts are the blood flow protectors, pistachios are the enhancers. They don't just keep circulation healthy, they actively improve it, and for men over 50, that means better energy, sharper vitality, and renewed confidence in every part of life. Pistachios stand out because they are rich in L-arginine, an amino acid your body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes blood vessels, allowing them to open wider and carry more blood where it's needed. Testosterone may provide the drive, but nitric oxide is what allows the body to deliver on that drive. Without it, circulation slows, stamina weakens, and performance suffers. Pistachios also supply antioxidants like lutein and polyphenols, which protect blood vessels from stiffening with age and keep them flexible, which is why I often call them the vitality nut. The research on pistachios is impressive. A 2011 study published in the International Journal of Impotence Research found that men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction experienced measurable improvements in sexual function, cholesterol, and overall satisfaction after just 3 weeks of eating pistachios daily. A follow-up study in 2012 confirmed these benefits, showing that pistachios improved circulation and vascular health in a matter of weeks. What's important is that pistachios don't just influence performance, they also improve how testosterone is used by the body. Better circulation means testosterone can actually reach the muscles, the brain, and the reproductive organs more effectively. I remember Frank, a 64-year-old retired contractor who told me he felt like he was slowing down. Mentally, he wanted to do more, but physically, he couldn't keep up. His golf game suffered, walks with his wife left him winded, and intimacy was no longer natural. Instead of starting medication, I asked him to make a few dietary changes, one of which was swapping his afternoon pretzels for a handful of pistachios. When he returned 2 months later, the change was remarkable. His blood pressure had dipped, his stamina was stronger, and he looked me in the eye and said, "Doc, I didn't realize how much I was missing until it came back." That is the pistachio effect, restoring circulation, energy, and the quiet confidence that men value most. Beyond circulation, pistachios carry nutrients that support hormone health in other ways. They provide vitamin B6, essential for hormone regulation and brain chemistry. They are rich in potassium, which helps manage blood pressure and supports muscle and nerve function. They also contain natural plant sterols that lower LDL cholesterol and strengthen heart health. This makes pistachios more than just a snack. They are a daily habit that supports long-term vitality. From my experience, men benefit most when they enjoy pistachios in moderation, about 1 or 2 ounces a day. They work well as an afternoon snack, especially because they are high in protein and fiber, which keep blood sugar steady and prevent the crash that leaves you drained by evening. I often suggest buying them in the shell because the simple act of cracking them slows you down and makes you more mindful, keeping portions under control. Recent studies continue to highlight their impact. Research in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that pistachio-enriched diets improved arterial stiffness, meaning the arteries stayed elastic and youthful. Another trial confirmed that pistachios lowered oxidative stress, one of the hidden drivers behind age-related testosterone decline. Together, these benefits mean pistachios enhance circulation, protect the cardiovascular system, and improve the way your hormones function. As I often tell my patients, testosterone is the spark, circulation is the fuel line, and pistachios keep that line wide open. They're more than a tasty snack. They're a practical tool for keeping your body performing the way it was designed to. And let's be honest, what most men truly want after 50 is not just more energy or strength, but the confidence that comes from feeling capable again. Pistachios help bring that confidence back, quietly but powerfully. Nut number 5, macadamia nuts, the testosterone builder. If almonds are the foundation, Brazil nuts the ignition, walnuts the circulation protectors, and pistachios the vitality boosters, then macadamia nuts are the builders because they provide the very type of fat your body needs to create testosterone. For years, men were told to avoid fat, following low-fat diets that promised better heart health and weight control. But testosterone is literally built from cholesterol and healthy fats, and without them, your body lacks the raw material to produce hormones efficiently. The key is not eating more fried foods or processed oils, but choosing the right kinds of fat, and that's where macadamias shine. Macadamias are rich in monounsaturated fats, the same heart-healthy fats found in olive oil and avocados, which support hormone production and cardiovascular health. Unlike many other nuts, they are low in omega-6 fatty acids, the type found in processed oils that drive inflammation and suppress testosterone. They also contain a modest amount of natural saturated fat, the very kind your body uses to assemble testosterone molecules. Research has shown this matters. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that men who consumed more monounsaturated and natural saturated fats from whole foods had significantly higher testosterone than men on low-fat diets. More recent studies in Nutrients and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that raising healthy fats while lowering processed omega-6 improves both testosterone and metabolic health. I remember George, a 72-year-old Navy veteran who came to me drained of energy and following a strict low-fat diet. His testosterone was low, his muscles were shrinking, and he said life felt flat. I had him add a handful of macadamia nuts to his breakfast, sprinkled over yogurt with berries. 2 months later, he told me, "Doc, I feel like my body remembers how to be a man again." His testosterone climbed nearly 20%, his energy returned, and even his blood pressure medication was reduced. Macadamias also provide magnesium to support free testosterone, manganese for energy production, fiber to stabilize digestion and blood sugar, and plant sterols that naturally support heart health. A small handful, about 10 to 12 nuts a day, is plenty. They work well in the morning or midday because they're satisfying and prevent overeating later. Some men blend them into smoothies for creaminess. Others cook with macadamia nut oil, which is stable at high heat and carries the same healthy fats. Gentlemen, for too long men were told to fear fat, not realizing that in doing so they were depriving their bodies of the very foundation for testosterone. Nature didn't intend hormones to be built from sugar or processed food. They were meant to be built from nutrient-rich foods like nuts, and macadamias are one of the best examples. They provide exactly what your body needs to rebuild testosterone naturally, helping restore energy, strength, and confidence in a way no supplement can. So there you have it, gentlemen. We've seen why testosterone matters more than ever after 50, not just for intimacy, but for strength, energy, mood, and the quiet confidence that defines how you live your life. And we've uncovered the 5 everyday nuts that can make a real difference. Almonds for zinc and magnesium, Brazil nuts for selenium, walnuts for circulation, pistachios for vitality, and macadamias for the healthy fats that build testosterone from the ground up. Now, let me be clear. None of these are magic bullets, but together they're powerful tools. Small daily habits repeated over time that can help you reclaim energy, sharpen your focus, and yes, restore confidence in the moments that matter most. Think about it this way. It's not about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. So I'll leave you with a question. If something as simple as a handful of nuts each day can fuel your body, balance your hormones, and keep you feeling like yourself again, why wouldn't you start today? Thanks for watching, gentlemen. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with a friend who needs to hear this, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next video. We've got more science-backed strategies to help men over 50 live stronger, healthier, and more confident lives. It's been a pleasure sharing this with you, and I'll see you in the next video.